Are you sure you'll be okay going to the hospital alone? Those words echoed in my mind as I sat nervously clutching my belly. 9 months pregnant, scared, and overwhelmed, I was facing one of the most important moments of my life alone. My husband James had chosen a trip with his parents over being by my side. My name is Rachel Morgan, and this is my story of strength, loneliness, and finding support when I needed it most. Living in the bustling heart of Chicago, I imagined motherhood as a chapter filled with warmth, love, and shared moments. The city's skyline, dotted with skyscrapers and winter's soft gray light filtering through my apartment window, became the backdrop for this new journey. But as my due date drew closer, a quiet unease settled over me, much like the lingering chill of the season outside. Every morning began before the sun rose. I would wake, gently stretch to ease the growing weight of my belly, and prepare breakfast for James, hoping to catch a moment of connection before he headed off to work. The apartment was filled with the scent of fresh coffee and the soft hum of the city waking up. After sending James out the door, I faced the long list of daily tasks: cleaning, laundry, grocery runs, all while managing the fatigue and discomfort that pregnancy brings. The physical challenges were constant. Simple movements became difficult. Lifting heavy bags or even standing for too long left me breathless. Friends occasionally offered to help, but most days the burden felt heavy and isolating. I found solace in my blog, a personal diary where I captured small joys: the way the morning light played on the nursery walls, the delicate petals of snowdrops pushing through the cold earth, the simple meals I prepared with care. Writing connected me to the world beyond my walls, a reminder that I was not completely alone. Yet, despite the beauty around me and the anticipation of welcoming our baby, an emotional distance grew between James and me. His weekends were often spent at his parents' home, just blocks away, yet it felt like miles between us. While I longed for partnership and support, the silence at home grew louder each day. At night, I lay awake, wondering if he truly understood the challenges I faced, or if he would be there when the moment came that I needed him most. This mix of hope and fear became my constant companion, a reminder that motherhood was not only about new life, but also about the strength to face uncertainty. As the weeks ticked by, James seemed to retreat further into his own world. His work consumed most of his days, and his weekends were almost always spent at his parents' house, a short walk from our apartment. At first, I told myself that family was important, that his bond with them was natural and something to be respected. But as my belly grew heavier, so did the weight of his absence. He would come home late, often exhausted, barely making eye contact. When he was around, his presence was distant and distracted, as if the pregnancy was someone else's concern, not his own. The chores that had once been shared now fell solely on me. Carrying groceries, cooking meals, tidying up, tasks that once felt simple became exhausting trials with each passing day. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, I handed James a glass of water, hoping for a moment of warmth. Instead, he asked sharply, "Where's the beer?" When I explained I'd forgotten to pick some up, his face tightened with irritation. "You should have gotten it," he snapped. His anger felt disproportionate, and the room seemed to close in around me. I was growing tired, not just physically, but emotionally. The man I'd promised to build a family with seemed to have checked out. His words echoed in my mind: being pregnant doesn't mean you get special treatment. The phrase cut deeper than any physical pain I'd felt. Yet despite this growing distance and coldness, I tried to hold on to hope that James would realize what we were facing together. But each day the strain pulled us further apart, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. Every morning felt like the start of a long, exhausting journey. My days began before the city fully woke up. A soft gray light filtering through the curtains, a chill in the air reminding me that winter still held its grip on Chicago. I would wake slowly, careful not to disturb the growing life inside me, and then start the familiar routine that had become both comfort and burden. Preparing breakfast for James was my first task, hoping to catch a glimpse of connection before he left for work. But often, the moment was brief and distant: a nod, a quick thanks, then the door closing behind him. Alone again, the reality of my responsibilities hit me like a cold wave. Cleaning the apartment took on new challenges as bending and lifting became difficult. Laundry baskets grew heavier, and I learned to pace myself, taking breaks between chores to breathe and steady myself. Grocery shopping was a particular trial, navigating crowded stores with a heavy belly, struggling to carry bags back home, often wishing for an extra pair of hands. Cooking became a careful balancing act between nutrition and energy. I spent hours planning meals that would nourish us both, finding solace in the small victories of a well-prepared dish. But dinner was often eaten alone, with James distracted or absent, leaving the silence around the table as heavy as my heart. To escape the isolation, I poured my thoughts into a blog, a place where I captured moments of beauty amid the struggle, the sunlight catching on frost-covered branches, the soft petals of early blooms, the quiet joy of a warm cup of tea. The words became my lifeline, a connection to the world outside and a reminder that I was not invisible. Yet, beneath the surface, fatigue and loneliness gnawed at me. The absence of partnership, the constant weight of responsibility, and the creeping doubt about what lay ahead pressed heavily on my soul. I longed for someone to share this journey, not just physically, but emotionally. Every day was a battle, but I fought on, fueled by the hope that someday, soon, things would be different. That the man I married would become the partner I needed. That together, we would welcome our child into a home filled with love and support. That night started like many others, but it quickly spiraled into a moment that would forever change my life. I had spent hours preparing a simple dinner, hoping to create a calm and loving environment. The soft glow of the kitchen light, the gentle simmering of food on the stove, all was in place for what I imagined would be a peaceful evening. But when James came home earlier than usual, the atmosphere shifted instantly. His tired eyes flashed with impatience as he threw his bag on the sofa, barely greeting me. Then came his demand, sharp and sudden. "Where's the beer?" I hesitated, explaining that I had forgotten to buy it earlier that day. Instead of understanding, his expression darkened and frustration spilled over. His anger wasn't just about the beer. It was a release of weeks, maybe months, of built-up tension and dissatisfaction. "Why didn't you get it yourself?" he snapped, voice rising. The harshness of his words hit me like a physical blow. I tried to explain my limits, my swollen belly, the discomfort of moving around, but he wasn't listening. His voice grew louder, accusing me of neglect and laziness. I felt trapped in a nightmare. My body aching, my heart breaking. I made the difficult decision to leave the house and go to the convenience store. The cold night air bit at my skin as I waddled through the streets, the weight of my pregnancy and the burden of loneliness pressing down on me. On the way, I bumped into Sarah, my neighbor and friend. Her warm smile and kind words were a brief but precious respite from the storm inside me. We walked together for a short while, and her support reminded me I wasn't entirely alone in this fight. But when I returned home, the storm wasn't over. James greeted me with scorn, criticizing the delay, the meal, even my efforts. The words stung more than the chill outside. I retreated to eat alone, feeling more isolated than ever. That night marked a turning point, the moment I realized that the love and support I craved might never come from the man I married. It was a night of heartbreak, but also the beginning of my awakening. In the darkest moments when hope felt fragile, Sarah appeared as an unexpected light. That night, when my water broke suddenly and panic took hold, it was her calm presence that steadied me. James, overwhelmed and distant, was no help. His frustration and confusion only deepened my fear. Sarah didn't hesitate. She immediately called for a special taxi, stayed by my side through the ride to the hospital, and offered words of comfort when the pain became unbearable. Her steady hand held mine, and her gentle voice whispered reassurance that I desperately needed. She even contacted my parents, urging them to come quickly, knowing I couldn't face the ordeal alone. In the bright, sterile hospital room filled with unfamiliar sounds and bright lights, Sarah became my anchor, a friend who showed me what true support looks like. Her kindness reminded me that family isn't always defined by blood, but by those who stand beside you when life is hardest. In those moments of vulnerability, I found strength in her friendship, a gift I will forever cherish. Labor was a whirlwind of intense emotions, unrelenting pain, and profound loneliness. Every contraction surged through me like a tidal wave, relentless and overwhelming, reminding me that I was about to bring a new life into this world, yet I was doing it almost completely alone. The sterile hospital walls, the beeping machines, the soft footsteps of nurses in the hallway, all these sounds blended into a surreal soundtrack for one of the most challenging nights of my life. James was nowhere to be found. He hadn't come when I needed him most. I couldn't understand how the man who promised to be my partner, the father of my child, could abandon me at the most vulnerable moment. His absence was a hollow ache beside me, sharper than any physical pain. Thankfully, Sarah stayed by my side, a constant presence of calm and strength. She held my hand through every wave of pain, whispered soothing words, and kept me focused on each breath. When my strength faltered, she was there, steady and unwavering, reminding me I was not alone. My parents arrived soon after, their faces etched with worry and love. Their comforting presence was a balm to my weary soul, yet it only deepened the contrast with James's absence. They held me close, offering encouragement and reassurance as I fought through the exhaustion and fear. Throughout the night, my phone buzzed with calls and messages from James, panicked apologies, promises, pleas, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. His words felt hollow, empty of true concern, a reminder of how far he had emotionally distanced himself. Finally, after hours of relentless labor, the piercing cry of our newborn filled the room, a sound more beautiful than anything I'd ever heard. Relief and joy washed over me in equal measure, but beneath it all lingered the sadness of solitude. Sarah smiled through tears, congratulating me with warmth and sincerity. The nurses praised my strength, yet I knew this victory was bittersweet. I had brought new life into the world, but the man I married was missing from the moment that should have been ours together. The days following were a haze of recovery and adjustment. My parents and Sarah remained my pillars of support, while James's silence grew louder. His absence during the birth carved a wound that would take longer to heal than my body's. From that night forward, I understood something profound. Strength is not only about enduring pain, but about recognizing and cherishing those who stand with you through life's darkest trials. In Sarah's friendship, I found the unwavering support I so desperately needed. A reminder that family is not always defined by blood, but by love and loyalty. As I cradled my newborn in my arms, I made a quiet promise to protect this child with everything I have, to build a life filled with respect and kindness, and to never settle for less than we deserve. The hours and days after the birth were filled with a complex mix of relief, exhaustion, and unforeseen challenges. My parents stayed by my side, offering a comforting presence as I recovered from labor and adapted to caring for our newborn. Their unwavering support felt like a warm shield against the storm brewing around me. Meanwhile, Mark's involvement was minimal and fraught with tension. His visits were few and far between, and when he did appear, his demeanor was cold and distracted. The barrage of phone calls and messages he sent often felt more like demands than genuine concern, making it clear that his priorities lay elsewhere. Adding to the pressure was his mother, who repeatedly called, criticizing me for not taking proper care of her son. Her words felt like another weight pressing down on my already fragile spirit. It was heartbreaking to realize that instead of offering support, his family sided against me, making the hospital stay even more difficult. Thankfully, the hospital staff recognized the delicate situation and provided me with compassionate care beyond their medical duties. They respected my wishes to limit contact with Mark and his family, creating a safe space where I could focus on healing. Despite their attempts, Mark and his relatives couldn't penetrate the protective bubble formed by my parents, Sarah, and the hospital team. Their presence reminded me that true family is defined by love, care, and respect, not just blood ties. This period was a harsh lesson in resilience and boundaries, teaching me the importance of surrounding myself with those who truly have my best interests at heart. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I reclaimed my strength and prepared to face the difficult decisions ahead. Days turned into weeks, but Mark's absence and indifference remained unchanged. His calls and messages swung wildly between desperate apologies and sharp accusations, each one chipping away at the fragile peace I struggled to maintain. The silence between us was deafening, not a peaceful calm, but a heavy weight pressing on my heart and mind. The breaking point came unexpectedly. A close friend shared a video she had captured, footage of Mark's outburst and neglect. The video quickly went viral, sparking a wave of public outrage. Suddenly, Mark could no longer hide behind closed doors. The truth was exposed, and accountability became unavoidable. Despite his attempts to blame others and minimize the situation, the damage was done. I found strength in the overwhelming support from friends, family, and strangers who saw my story and stood beside me. With the help of a trusted lawyer, I began preparing to take the necessary steps to protect myself and my child. This moment wasn't just the end of a chapter, it was the start of reclaiming my life. A painful, necessary awakening that set me on a path toward freedom and healing. Deciding to end the marriage was one of the most challenging and transformative decisions I've ever made. It wasn't merely about walking away from a relationship, but about reclaiming my dignity, my safety, and the future of my child. The legal process that followed was daunting, filled with meetings, court appearances, and moments of intense vulnerability. Each step tested my resolve. There were times I doubted myself, questioned if I could face the emotional and financial burdens ahead. But with the unwavering support of my parents, my close friends, and a compassionate lawyer, I found strength I never knew I had. They reminded me that standing up for myself and my baby was not only right, it was necessary. The court hearings brought moments of conflict and discomfort. Mark continued to resist, refusing to accept the gravity of his actions. Yet slowly, through mediation and the firm guidance of our legal representatives, the path toward resolution became clearer. This process was not just about ending a marriage, it was about beginning a new chapter, one defined by respect, independence, and hope. I embraced the uncertainty ahead with courage, knowing that my choice was for a better life, free from neglect and pain. With every challenge faced, I grew stronger. I was no longer a silent sufferer, but a woman taking control of her destiny and fighting for the happiness of her family. With the storm finally behind me, I began the slow process of rebuilding my life, piece by piece, day by day. The unwavering support of Sarah, my parents, and a few close friends became the foundation of my healing. Their visits, encouraging words, and simple presence reminded me that I was no longer alone. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope, a gentle light guiding me toward a future I could shape on my own terms. Holding my newborn close, I was overwhelmed by a powerful mixture of exhaustion and joy. The scars left by betrayal and neglect remained, but they were no longer wounds that defined me. Instead, they became reminders of my strength, a testament to the battles I had fought and the resilience I had discovered within myself. In the quiet moments of recovery, I learned that strength is not just about enduring hardship, but about embracing love and support, even from unexpected places. Sarah's friendship grew deeper, and my relationship with my parents became stronger than ever. Together, they helped me envision a life filled with peace, respect, and unconditional love. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself embracing a new identity, one of empowerment, courage, and hope. I was no longer defined by pain or loss, but by the choices I made to protect my child and nurture my own well-being. This journey is far from over, but now I walk it with confidence. I am a mother renewed, a woman transformed, and a soul open to the possibilities of tomorrow. If my story resonates with you, know this: you are not alone. No matter how dark the night, there is always the promise of dawn. Together we rise, stronger, braver, and ready to embrace the future.